Taste is what your taste buds perceive. So you have taste buds all over your tongue, and they perceive bitter, sour, salty, sweet, and umami. And each of those different channels is excited by specific compounds. So salty receptors are excited by salt and a few other compounds. Sour taste buds are excited by different acids. Sweet is triggered by sugar. And each of these taste buds plays an evolutionary role. So sweetness cues us that there's energy in whatever we're eating or drinking. And this is very important. We need energy to live. We love sweetness. We always need to be replenishing our energy. Sweetness is one of the big things that draws us in. And in a cocktail, almost every drink has sugar in some form. That sweetness could be literal sugar that was added in there, or simple syrup, could be maple syrup, could be honey. Almost every drink has some sugar, which serves to draw us in. Now, salt is important because all of our cells require sodium to communicate with each other. So just like sugar, just like sweetness, we always need salt. We always want salt. In the cocktail world, it's rare for a drink to be really salt forward. There are a couple. The Bloody Mary is pretty salty, salty dog. But for the most part, we're not dosing drinks with a high amount of salt. But a fun trick at home is almost every drink benefits from just a little pinch of salt. So if you make yourself an old-fashioned, a daiquiri, a gimlet, whatever, take your salt shaker, pour out just enough, 10 flakes or something, drop that into your drink. Or even better, split your drink into 2 cups, put a little bit of salt into one, but not the other. Taste them side by side. That little addition of salt almost universally helps drinks taste better. So sugar draws us in, salt draws us in. But a lot of times the beauty of a cocktail comes from tension. So bitterness and sourness push us away. Bitterness in the form of cocktail bitters goes into a lot of classic drinks, and in an evolutionary sense, the reason that we can perceive bitterness is because a lot of poisons are bitter. So we don't want that bitterness, and if we ingested, a pint of bitters, it would probably have ill effect, but we're doing the bitters at a level where it's not harmful to us overall. It just helps to create that tension between the sweetness drawing us in, the bitterness pushing us away, and that tension between the two is where we find an enjoyable cocktail. Now, similarly with sourness, again, sourness can be an indicator of spoilage. It can be something that we don't want in our drink. If it's super acidic, it's going to burn your mouth. It's going to, cause indigestion. It's going to have a lot of issues. So sourness pushes us away. The sweetness draws us in. That tension between sweetness and sourness creates an interesting cocktail. So bittersweet cocktails form a whole class of classic cocktails, everything from old fashions to Sazeracs to Manhattans. Sour sweet cocktails are another class. Gimlets, margaritas, daiquiris are all those sour sweet drinks. And it's that tension that makes them beautiful. Now, in a drink, a lot of times the acidity comes from citrus juice. So everything from a lemon, orange, lime. You could use more exotic acid like vinegar or something like that, or even citric acid if you wanted a more isolated form. But citrus also has a nice aroma, so that's where a lot of classics get their acidity from. Now, umami is kind of the weird outlier in the cocktail world. There aren't a lot of really savory cocktails, and even umami is not always a well-understood term. Umami is a Japanese term that means delicious or savory, and it shows up in a lot of meat dishes. It shows up in seaweed, it shows up in mushrooms. None of those are really things that you see very often on cocktail menus. The one thing that you do see more regularly are grapes or grape-based ingredients. Things like wine, things like vermouth, sherry. Grapes have umami compounds in them. So when we're talking about the different tastes, anything with vermouth is going to have that savory, that umami element, and Grapes also have some acidity in them. So that's where we're going to get that fifth basic taste, the umami, from. So between bitter, sour, salty, sweet, and umami, what we're trying to do is balance all those different tastes in a way that creates that dynamic tension, creates an intriguing taste profile, and creates a cocktail that we want to drink.
Perfect. I love the fact that you sit still